Welcome to the Butler's View with Charles Butler. I hope to share with you today some interesting insights about what's going on in our country, the world, and our neighborhood. Today we have the honor of having with us the Honorable Danny Davis, the Congressman of my district. And I'd like to say welcome, Congressman Davis.
Well, thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure indeed. And whenever I get a chance to listen to what you're doing and sometimes to view it, I make it my business to do so.
Well, thank you, and likewise. Congressman Davis, you know, there are a number of issues that are affecting America today. We have the NATO summit coming in this weekend. A lot of people don't even know what NATO is, or what it does. The G8 was moved to Camp David. And here we are again with a very important world event in our backyard, and very little has been talked about it.
Well, you know, I'm actually pleased that NATO is going to be here. So when people read about it, as I did when I was a student, and you read about where something is being held and why it's being held there, and you wonder, well, hey, why didn't they have certain things some places? And so I'm proud. I live in Chicago. I am a proud Chicagoan. I did not grow up here, but I've come to love this city. I love to see it do things. I love for it to be in the forefront of things. And who knows, we may actually discover a solution to something. I'm saying,
we may solve something. Yeah.
Talking, they may come up with some meaningful direction to something, and then we can say it happened in Chicago.
In Chicago.
And so I'm pleased.
Well, you know, Chicago's always been interesting in terms of black history. We had one of the first black congressmen, and certainly two black senators out of the state of Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, that's
very significant.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that Chicagoans really realize how powerful we have been in the past.
I know that we don't.
Okay.
I'm saying very seldom do you hear people mention the fact that there were two African-American senators elected from Chicago, the state of Illinois, and what that portended, which means that I don't think that we understood it enough to seriously fight to keep it. I'm saying,
because we had congressmen, we had the first black congressman before, I should say after Reconstruction, with Congressman Duprice?
Oscar Duprice, who supposedly carried two pistols.
Yeah. And was a Republican first.
And was a Republican.
Yeah. But Congressman, let's talk a little bit about Chicago and black unemployment. You know, in the nation, it said that unemployment is 7.8%. I was reading a stat this morning. It said that black unemployment is 13.7%. Now here in Chicago, there have been studies that said black male unemployment is over 50%. Oh, yeah. And we certainly see that as we walk up and down the streets. What do you see? And then I see a project like the O'Hare Modernization Project. It's a $15 billion project, largely federal dollars. And black contractors, I understand, have less than 1/10 and we don't see any black workers on this project.
Well, guess what? I think that the Metra contract relative to the Inglewood flyover is going to generate a level of scrutiny and activity that goes far beyond Metra. And you're going to find that many African Americans are going to spend much more time looking at contract compliance in relationship to minority business development activity, disadvantaged business development activity.
But Congressman, I'm more interested in black American participation. I'm not interested in minority participation. It seems like white women always get their share. Huizenga got so much of the O'Hare project, he built a new cement plant. That was in the paper. So, you know, where and when do we as black Americans get our share today?
Well, I think that we use these different designations in terms of what was technically legal in order to get legislation passed a certain kind of way. I agree with all of those who would suggest that black people in America have not gotten anything close to a fair share of opportunity. And certainly we have not gotten it from city government. We have not gotten it from county government. We have not gotten it from state government. And I find that even in small towns where blacks make up all of the political representation, just about,
Yes.
where there's a black mayor, there's a black council, there's a black school board, you know, there's a black park district board, where there's a black everything in terms of what is supposed to be able to make decisions. And their decisions are oftentimes reflective of those that are made by large municipalities, a county government, or city government, as if they're not in control
Yes.
of these decisions.
These contracts.
And yet they have all of the authority.
Right.
I'm saying,
Yes, sir.
because they're the governing body of their town, of their school district, of their whatever. And they still don't use black contractors satisfactorily,
Well,
in my estimation.
that's true. We look at Mayor Daley's tenure, and when Mayor Daley came into office, black American contractors had roughly 22% of city contracts. Today they have less than 3%. Maynard Jackson in Atlanta, he made sure when the Hartsfield project went in that
And they
Herman
operated
Russell and
under
others,
the same law.
They
I'm
operated- yes, sir.
saying they could not go against
right,
federal laws.
Laws, right.
They couldn't make any local laws that conflicted with federal law, which meant that they weren't going around anything. They were following things and yet doing it the right way. And no, it has not been done the right way in Chicago. I would hope that the members of the Chicago City Council, but I don't place all of the onus on anybody.
right.
I think that I've been very pleased to be engaged with Congressman Rush, Congressman Jackson, the coalition that is emerging around the Inglewood issue. And we've resolved within ourselves that we're going to fight that issue until some change comes, which means we're going to fight the Board of Education, we're going to fight with the Park District, we're going to fight with all of them.
Well, I think that we have to use strategies, Congressman Davis, that involve the legal system. You know, all the protesting, the people out in the streets, that's emotional. The bottom line is, as you stated earlier, we have laws that municipalities and elected officials have to follow. And it was always interesting to me that Mayor Daley said, well, I can't get black contractors bonded. But let's
They
move.
still say that.
Yeah, they
I'm
do.
saying, but I think we have to do both.
Okay.
I think the legal strategy must be employed, but I also think that a level of street action also drives the legal action to some degree. It is amazing to me that a judge and jury and lawyers and defenders could come up with a verdict that Howard Morgan got for whatever it was that he did. I'm not totally, but I don't know how you get that kind of verdict and feel.
Tell our audience a little bit about Harry Morgan.
Well, you know, who was shot, I've forgotten how many times, but his body was totally riddled with bullets. And he ended up getting 30 years or whatever he got in prison.
It's unconscionable.
And I never knew Mr. Morgan personally, but I knew his wife and I knew his wife's family, know them well, and just couldn't imagine
But
that he
Congressman-
was no kind of monster
Right.
or whatever.
But how do we explain, you had an incident with the police officers, Chicago police officers, where you had 4 people in the car and they pulled you over. I've had incidents with police officers because they say I drive a nice car, so I should be racially profiled. And I don't mind that as long as it's done with respect and out of concern for and respecting my citizenship and within the boundaries of the law. But I had an incident that I call the police on the police. But we're not going to go into that this session. But let's talk a little bit about this voter ID issue, because voter ID laws are proliferating the country these days. And here in Illinois, and especially Chicago, we've been notorious for having dead folks vote 2 or 3 times.
In certain kinds of elections.
Yes. And it's interesting. And in these federal elections, states have adopted an ID. I mean, I moved here from California, and I found it just very odd that I did not have to and don't have to show a piece of ID identifying myself as I'm Charles Butler and I'm registered to vote.
But guess what?
Yes, sir.
It's been my feeling and my position that you should be facilitating involvement and participation of people as opposed to trying to deny, block, or work. In some states, you can vote almost by telephone. You can
Right.
almost pick up the phone, or you can send your ballot in the mail, and I call that progressive voting. You can be in the penitentiary, and you can vote while incarcerated. It's only 1, 2.
Okay.
But you can do it.
Okay.
But what is so different about other states where you've got to go through your pedigree? And I
You don't have to go through pedigree.
well,
Let's-
just have a valid identification
That's
card
true. Yes.
that somebody calls valid.
Exactly.
Now there are some people that that becomes a kind of hardship for them.
How?
Not
Why?
a big hardship.
Why?
Well, they're
you have to have
old,
well, no,
they're infirmed.
those are not. Those are
They-
not.
they-
That's not true.
They can't read and write. They don't know how to space their time.
No,
And-
those
and
are
they should
excuses.
know all of those
are
things.
excuses. A responsible citizen, as an American, we all have a responsibility.
But we all get overpowered.
We all have a responsibility as citizens of this country. And I think that one of those responsibilities is, one, you have to have a driver's license or some form of state ID.
Well-
Somebody knows who you are. You can't get on an airplane.
But you don't drive.
But you can't get on the air. But
There are a lot of people who don't have a
But these
car.
people are on welfare. And these people get public assistance. And those people have forms of state ID.
And now they're trying to make sure that you can't get public assistance unless we test you to drugs.
I like that.
For drugs.
I like that.
Well, I believe that people should not be using habit-forming drugs. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I decided that those were injurious to my health. And so I stopped. But and I've always been reasonably, I think, intelligent.
You certainly are.
But the more people pushed the idea that smoking was harmful to your health,
Yes, sir.
the more I bought into it, and the more I.
But we're not
decided-
talking cigarettes and nicotine here. We're talking heroin, crack,
Let me
meth.
tell you, cigarettes cost almost as much as crack.
It's cheaper.
I wouldn't smoke. I mean, I couldn't afford to be a regular pack a day.
No, sir.
Smoker, not now. But yeah, I think people should be responsible.
Yes.
I think that we have to keep teaching and pushing responsibility. And there was a time when we seriously did it. I'm saying there was a time when people wanted so badly to actually demonstrate that they could function the way other parts of when I was a kid.
When we come back, we're going to pick up right where you left off, because this is very important. Folks, we'll be right back with Congressman Danny Davis. Welcome back to the Butler's Views with Charles Butler as host. This evening we have with us Congressman Danny Davis from the 4th Congressional District.
Seventh.
7th Congressional District. How could I forget
Lucky
that?
7.
Lucky 7. When we left off earlier, Congressman Davis, we were talking about voter ID and the impact of voter ID on some segments of the population. I've read most of the voters' laws verbatim, and I found them to be extending and reaching to be inclusive. These laws want to identify who's actually voting. And I think that's very important, especially in a city like Chicago, where we just had an election where Hispanics claim they won 3 or 4 wards based on this illegal immigrant population that we have.
But
here.
you can't vote if you're not a citizen.
But they counted these people. But they are voting. That's the problem. That's why we want voter ID. And I think, there are a lot of issues that we have to get to as Americans, because at the end of the day, I think illegal immigration adversely impacts poor people, and that happens to encompass a lot of Black Americans. I know that you've been very supportive in second chance for felons, but my thing has always been, what about Black folks who haven't had a chance yet? And we have to do something with both of them. And I commend your effort in you and President Bush getting that signed. So what do we do here? I mean, what do we?
Well, much of what we call illegal immigration are people who came to America without passport of entry, just simply saying they came. And that was not paid attention to for a
Decades.
long period of time. It just kind of happened. People would go, and I saw cowboys go into Mexico and didn't nobody give.
That's right.
At least in the movies.
That's Hollywood.
So if we can get across the Rio Grande,
We're free.
we'll be okay.
That's right.
And nobody bothered them. Now we have decisions to make. People raise the issue that our social networks, safety networks, are being overrun by individuals who are not citizens. That is, when you go to Cook County Hospital, if you're not a citizen, taxpayers' money pay for you to get cared for. All kind of other reasons. There used to be enough employment when we were largely agriculture and manufacturing. We've lost manufacturing.
But how do we get that back? I think we get that back by bringing back GATT, the General Agreements, Tariffs, and Taxes Act.
Yeah, but see, I think that the only way we get it back is to be competitive. Individuals have become citizens of the world. That is, large, mega manufacturers and business people see themselves as being citizens of the world. So they go where the...
But those are capitalists.
Yeah,
But see, I think American workers have to be protected, because we're competing against peasants. In China.
But
these
there
people
are
are
people
peasants.
who believe that we have to raise the quality of life
But that's not
and of
happening.
living, not only for people in our country,
But we lowered it.
but for people in other countries.
But what we
too.
did, I'm not interested in people in other countries right now. We lowered the standard. You and I were talking about this earlier. When you got out of high school, like in Gary or Detroit, you graduated from high school, you went to the plant, you stood in line. If they were hiring 300 people that day and you were $2.99, you got hired. You had a job, you had salary, 30 days, you had a car, 6 months, you had an apartment or a house. Life was good in America. All that's gone because of people taking jobs and sending them over to these.
Or is it gone because technological advances have taken place to a degree where we don't need to hire 300 to do that? We can hire 20 and get as much work done.
I think that people today in America, I think instead of us progressing as a workforce, I think we've regressed. I think people are doing more today than they've ever done
Oh,
before.
without a doubt.
And I don't think they're doing it as well.
And
I
we
think-
don't need all of the people that we needed before to do it.
But I don't think we're doing things as well. I mean, if you pick up the phone and you call customer service, we got better customer service 15
But
years
if
ago
you
than we get
open a
today.
can of peas that came from the Jolly Green Giant,
yeah.
and you heat them up and eat them, you probably say, well, they good as any other peas
But they
I've
picked,
got that come
yeah. But
from someplace else.
But when we talk about cars, manufacturing, we talk about computers. I mean, Hewlett Packard was like one of the largest manufacturers and largest employers on the West Coast. Today, you can't buy a job at HP because they're all in China.
That's right. And if you look at Chase, that we just are experiencing right now,
Right.
there are those individuals who suggest that just because Chase has lost all of this money, that it's a deal, but it's not a deal that is so bad that Chase is on the verge
Of collapse?
of
Of course
anything
not.
happening to it, other than they may have to let a few people go, because nobody wants to be in that predicament that they've got egg on their face and they are ashamed in terms of the industry and all of that. But yet, they're going to do all right. I mean, they still will do well. And if you got some money
But
in
that's
Chase,
business.
you don't.
But that's
you-
business.
Big business.
Yes, big business. But when we're talking about what's going on today, Congressman, where we have weapon systems, we have subsystems of major weapon systems being manufactured in China, which means they have access to some of our most sensitive information and data. These are not our friends. These are our potential enemies. They're building a navy that's on par, would soon be on par with us if we keep cutting ships. And so, these things to me are just unconscionable.
But the Chinese were smart enough to say, we may not have all of everything you got now, but we will buy it from you. If you don't sell it to us,
Or steal it.
we'll get it from spies, and we'll get it from people who
But these are
leak
legitimate business transactions where we have people who have government contracts, DOD contracts, who are outsourcing their weapon subsystems to the Chinese. And the House Intelligence Committee and Senate Intelligence Committee are investigating this.
And they're investigating, but I don't think that people in some quarters push hard enough to maintain what they have. We have a country that will respond to whoever is pushing the hardest, whether you right wing, left wing, cross-eyed. No, if you push your issue enough, it's like people who are conservative. In the South, they've pushed this real hard. I mean, they have pushed so hard until many of the practices for them are very commonplace.
Which
The only
kind of
thing some of
practices?
them have not done is put signs up saying coloreds drink here. And
What are you
and
talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that they want to cut out. For example, we had on the floor last week a bill. We was appropriating money for commerce and justice. There were amendments to wipe out the legal assistance money. That is for
To-
individuals to get law, go to get a lawyer. And one fellow who put an amendment in his amendment said, anybody who can't afford legal services don't deserve them.
Well,
So
I-
let's cut all the money.
I have a
out of
pastor
this
right here in Chicago.
program.
I have a pastor right here in Chicago who's being sued, who cannot get an attorney, and the court won't appoint him an attorney. And he's black, and the judge is black. So that's not down south, and I'm sure the
That's
judge is
a civil-
the judge is a Democrat.
But that's a civil
Issue.
kind of
Yeah.
case.
Okay. Okay, you're right. But look, that's why we have checks and balances in the government.
But do we want to help people?
No, I
let
don't
me-
want. No, I'm interested in people helping themselves. No, I don't want to help people.
But some
I'm
people
interested in
just
people
need
having
a
an
little-
opportunity. I'm interested in people having an opportunity to help themselves.
All right,
that
suppose-
comes through having jobs. That comes through having
Let
contracts.
me ask you this. If you are born to parents who don't give you any help.
That's another
growing up.
excuse.
No, but there are a lot of people
Because we all know those stories. We all know people who were orphans who became millionaires.
But they got some help in the
They
orphanage.
helped themselves, and that was here.
But they also went to the orphanage.
That was here, and that was here.
Yeah, but they went to the orphanage.
And today,
and they had the help that the orphanage provided.
no, they had heart, and they had a mind, and they had the will to do the right thing. Today, Congressman Davis, I think we have people who are too interested in doing the wrong thing. And you and I were talking about this a little bit earlier about how in the old days, the poem that you cited, 15 million Negroes, and you cited your sister used to say about combing your hair. And look at Andrew Bynum. Here's a multimillionaire who walks around. This boy can afford a haircut. Look at some of these entertainers. It's ridiculous the way that these black men and women allow themselves to be portrayed. We got 1 minute to break, sir.
Okay, well, we got to the point where certain values didn't matter enough.
To whom?
To the individuals.
They dress didn't matter to you. Look at you.
You're
You're dressed impeccably.
Well, but I'm saying my folks ran this on us. I mean, you had to comb your hair and wash your face. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'd even put Vaseline.
I could use a little bit.
But that's what they did.
Yes.
Some of it probably, we'd say is kind of out of kilter, but I believe in it. And I don't think you have to get rid of the baby every time you throw out the bathwater.
Okay.
That some things you hold on to.
But we haven't done that, and we're paying the price.
There are things that we really have not. I know people on Sundays you would dress up. I know lots of people who do not own a pair of leather shoes. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about have no ownership. They don't own a tie. Mm-hmm. There's no tie in their wardrobe.
But in the old days, and we look back at the pictures, when Chicagoans, especially black Chicagoans, were impeccably dressed.
You had to go to church on Sunday
Yes.
or something. So there were times when you needed to go out. I run into young fellas all the time. If there is a place to go or whatever, and you mention to them that they can go, they'll say, well, I don't have any attire that I could wear that would make me be comfortable in that environment, because they never bought one.
But they can spend $200 on a pair of shoes.
Or $200 on a jumpsuit or whatever it is
sir.
that they wear.
Yes, sir.
And they just they've never been into this acculturation, and we've accepted certain kinds of behavior, and that's what we've got.
And that's why we're going out of the world backwards, where you have Hispanics who are coming here, and Latinos, whatever they're calling themselves these days, and they're making out like bandits. They're going to college. They're matriculating to good jobs. They're matriculating into government. They're just doing well. They have bought into what we used to do.
I want to come back and talk about what we need to do to change some of that, because it has to be changed. I mean, I don't like seeing the brothers walking down the street with their pants falling off. I mean,
well, actually,
I'm not going to jump on them, but I don't like it. No point in me saying that I like it.
Exactly.
And I don't know if I will ever reach the point in my lifetime where I will like it, don't want to accept it, and will advocate something different because I don't like it. But can we get enough advocacy to change it?
I'm sure we can. With people like you leading the way, we certainly can.
It's going to take a whole lot of people.
Well, when we start filing lawsuits about these people misrepresenting us, like the Arabs have done, like the Jewish people have done, then they'll stop. We have better Stephen Fetchers and Al Jolsons today than we ever had in the past, and they're all black people. Folks, I'm sorry that we have to wrap up, but this is Butler's View with Congressman Danny Davis of the 7th Congressional Ward of Illinois. And we have had a wonderful discussion, as you can see. Please call his office, email him with your suggestions. Congressman Davis is one of the most accessible congressmen and responsive congressmen I have ever had the pleasure and privilege of knowing. And I would like for you all to experience that pleasure and privilege also. Thank you again, Congressman Davis, for spending some time with us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Butler. It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to coming back.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
it.